Hey guys, welcome back to this channel. So today's video is all about this MacBook Pro M1. So I bought this M1 MacBook like 8 months ago and it serves me very well. Yes, I know nowadays we have the new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro and I had the 14-inch in my hand, but I really felt in love with this MacBook just because of the size of it. It's a 13-inch, like you already know. It has an M1 chip inside, which makes it blastly fast. If you want to edit videos on Final Cut Pro, you can do it right away with this thing. You don't need a big one like I have here. So this is a 27-inch iMac, and I know what you might thinking, well, if you have an iMac, why not just edit your videos on that iMac? Well, reason for that is because this laptop is portable. You can take it everywhere with you. You can just toss it in your bag and edit your videos wherever you are. And I mean this. If you are a content creator, you need to make every moment of your day just to focus on that creation because it takes a lot of time, guys. You need to shoot these videos, you need to edit them, you need to script them. Some people script their videos. I mean, I have a lot of respect for those guys. But back again to this MacBook. So like I said, I bought this MacBook like 8 months ago, which was like 2021. But if we look to the overview, we see it's an M1. It has an M1 chip inside and it's made in 2020. That's always the case. Whenever I buy a MacBook in a certain year, let's say 2021, and when I open the overview, it has always a year earlier. Maybe that's because that MacBook is made in that year and it was in the warehouse of Apple for a couple of months before it gets to me. I think that's the case. That's the reason why we always see that the MacBook or any other Apple device is made a year or a couple of months earlier. So it has an M1 chip inside, and for you guys who don't know what an M1 chip is, the M1 chip basically combines the CPU and GPU of the MacBook together. So traditionally, with the Intel chip, the CPU and GPU were separated from each other. So whenever the CPU tried to communicate with the GPU, it has to make a very long route to reach that GPU, which makes this whole machinery process not very slow, but kind of not efficient. So if you are a heavy MacBook user, at the end of the day, so your battery will drain very fast. It has a 16GB RAM, which is a must, guys. You definitely need at least 16GB of RAM. I actually don't focus on the internal hard drive. If it is 128GB, I'll go with it as long as my RAM is on the higher end. And nowadays, you will not find a 128GB MacBook Pro. They start at 256, if I'm not mistaken. But correct me on that on the comment section below. Yeah, like I said, a 16GB memory RAM. Why is that important? Well, reason for that is because your RAM is the one that holds all these applications together. If your RAM runs out of memory, your MacBook will store them on your internal storage, and that's something that you don't want. Why? Because it will fasten the aging of your MacBook very fast. And we all know that your hard drive is like your heart of the MacBook. If that goes bust, well, you can just replace your MacBook with something else or replace that hard drive, but that's a pain. Believe me, guys, that's a route that you don't want to walk. So go always for a 16GB, at least 16GB. I know nowadays, if you go for the MacBook Pro 13-inch, you don't find a 32GB. And as we know from Apple, you cannot upgrade that 16GB. Like manually. You can go to Amazon and buy a 32GB RAM and just put it in this thing. I don't know. I'm not sure why they do that. Maybe they want to make their laptop. They want to have their devices very compact, and they try to keep their elements very secure. So speaking of battery, I just spoke of battery. I told you that the combination of the CPU and GPU works very efficient, which means that your battery will stay for ages. Well, I'm not mean like ages, but you can safely work with this thing for like 8 hours, a whole day long. And I'm talking also about like Final Cut Pro editing and using Photoshop and I don't know, using Figma, which is something I do like to use. You may have noticed Visual Studio Code. I'm a very noob into this whole coding thing. I know a bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Well, actually, I know a lot of HTML, CSS, but not very much of JavaScript. So that's something I dabble on. And you can do all kind of things on this thing without breaking a sweat. That's what I love about this MacBook. It's very small. You can just, it fits everywhere. It has a very long lasting battery, and yeah, you can do all kinds of things with it. There's one downside though, because whenever I see a review about the product, people they're afraid of talking about downsides, but that's what this video is also about, talking about the downsides, which is the display. Don't get me wrong, it is a Retina display that's very bright, and whenever I brighten this display up, all the way up, it gets very ugly on cam, that I know. You see all of those smudges on the screen, which is something, I know there are screensavers that have a matte finish, and maybe they will save you those smudges, but that asks also the quality of that display. That goes down whenever you put that screensaver on it. But I'm not sure if it's visible. Maybe it will be more visible if I turn this thing all the way down, and there you see me. But I'm talking about these smudges over here. See that? And I'm not touching the screen whatsoever. I tried to clean it. I deliberately didn't clean my MacBook before making this video, just to show you how that screen gets filthy with smudges and all of that. And sometimes it's even very hard to remove those smudges. Definitely you need to have a fiber cloth to do so. Don't do it with a t-shirt or something. To be honest, those smudges are not that annoying, because if you turn your display up, they just kind of disappear, but they are there, and that annoys me a bit. So maybe Apple, a suggestion for your next line, make sure to give us a beautiful Retina display, but a display that doesn't have smudges on it, or doesn't easily attract a lot of smudges and dust and all of that. So yeah, please Apple, we pay you like what, 2,000 euros. Here in the Netherlands, the base model goes for about 1,800 euros. And I'm just talking about the MacBook Pro 13-inch. I'm not talking about the 16-inch high-end model. That one can easily reach like 4,100 euros, which is crazy, But okay, yeah, I mean, you get something back for it. You get this aluminum body that feels very nice. It has this kind of good keyboard. It's not that butterfly anymore that we used to see on the older generation MacBooks, and that it's not like very great. It's not like Lenovo great keyboard, but it does the job. It's not that annoying. It's definitely a decent keyboard. We have this escape key, and maybe if I just, so we have this escape key over here. That's a separated button. So on the older generation MacBooks, this key was like combined with this touch bar, and that was annoying, especially for programmers. They just ask for an escape key separately because you're using it very much. And we have a touch bar, and I know this touch bar got a lot of hate. Maybe I'll make a separated video about this touch bar alone, why I love it, why it's not that bad. I mean, it's not that bad at all. I'm not sure why they removed the touch bar. Just leave it as an option for people who do want a touch bar. Just leave it there. I would definitely go for a touch bar if there was a MacBook Pro 14-inch or 16-inch, like a newer generation with a touch bar. And yeah, that's actually it. I very like this thing. If I would advise you to go for one, just to choose the M1, just choose the one with the M1 chip. And definitely, I can't stress this enough for you guys, but definitely go for a 16 gigabyte of memory RAM. Even with a 16 gigabyte of memory RAM, I find myself drain my RAM up. So if I go to and see the available RAM right now, and I'm not having a lot of programs opening up, it's just Google Chrome and some Visual Code, etc. So The available RAM as of now is about 224. It just switches between the 200 and 300 megabytes. And I'm not talking about gigabytes, I'm talking about megabytes. Yes, I can free that up, but you need this software, which is, I believe, Clean My Mac. Yeah, and that kind of does the job for you. Now it's about 5 gigabyte. So, now it's even 6.7 gigabyte of RAM. And the CPU is very quiet. The fans are very quiet. They don't run over. You don't hear them at all. It's like I'm working on an iPad whenever I do something heavy on this thing. It's just, yeah, amazing what Apple did with this MacBook Pro. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions about this video or any other video, obviously, just leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for your support. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Give it a big thumbs up. That helps me a lot. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye.